Good evening, and welcome to the second annual WSG Gala. Now please turn your attention to the rear doors and join me in welcoming the officers of the Senate. Parliamentarian Jordan Purnell, Outreach Officer Lofton Rieberg, and the Speaker of the Senate, Nick Petrikis.
I love you.
Please join me in welcoming the Student Body President's Cabinet, Directors Olivia Gross, Maddie Rosequist, Keenan Turner, Clerk Sadie J. West, and SUFAC Chair Orrin Smith. Please join me in welcoming the President-elect and Vice President-elect, Mr. Isaiah Wilson and Ms. Paige Linneman. Finally, please join me in welcoming the Student Body President and Vice President, Mr. Douglas A. Bradley III and Ms. Abbie Reiser.
Good evening, everyone. Whoa. Thank you all for being here tonight. On behalf of the Whitewater Student Government, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to the second annual WSG Gala. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Petrikis, and I have the privilege of being the Speaker of the Student Body Senate, and tonight, your MC. To the students, faculty, staff, alumni, and esteemed guests in the room, your presence tonight is more than just a nice dinner surrounded by family and friends. It is a testament to the purpose of why we wake up each morning, why we do what we do. It shows that you believe this work matters, and that the time and effort put into this organization has a real impact on students. Now, WSG, at times, can be a very formal thing. We have meetings, we have agendas, legislation, and this thing called Robert's Rules of Order. But tonight is not that. Tonight is a chance to step away from all of it, to sit with the people who support you, reflect on the work that's been done, and just enjoy the moment. Because while we do, in fact, have another Senate meeting on Monday, and yes, this is your reminder, tonight is not the night to do business. At its core, WSG is much simpler than that. It's students choosing to make the lives of their fellow students better. As Speaker, I have the honor of working with an extraordinary group of students who show up every day to serve their peers. Just over a month ago, I was elected Speaker of the Senate, but before that, I served as Deputy Speaker of the Senate for close to a year and a half, as parliamentarian for a semester, and as Chairman of the Segregated University Fee Allocation Committee, helping to coordinate a $13 million allocation process. And those experiences taught me a lot about how the organization works, but more importantly, they taught me that none of it works without the people. Which is why I'm incredibly proud to see Elizabeth Vanderhei, Jordan Purnell, and Orrin Smith now in those roles, along with Lofton Rieberg in our newly created position of Senate Outreach Officer. And to see all of them excelling in their own ways. Because while I get the opportunity to speak in front of you all today, the reality is that none of what we do can be done by a single person. It happens because of the team, and I want to take a short moment to say a few words about each of them. First, our Deputy Speaker, Elizabeth Vanderhei, who has golf right now, so she will be joining us shortly, I hope. I had the pleasure of serving in this role, and what I learned is that the best deputy speakers are the ones you don't always see. I sometimes jokingly refer to it as the shadow speaker because so much of the work happens behind the scenes. That's what makes someone a great deputy speaker, the ability to quietly handle responsibility, keep things running, and make sure everything holds together, even when no one is watching. Elizabeth Vanderhei exemplifies every single one of those qualities, and while she hasn't been in the role for too long, the potential she displays is unparalleled. Next, our parliamentarian, Jordan Purnell. When I served in this role, I quickly realized it takes a very specific kind of individual to truly embrace it. It requires patience, attention to detail, and a willingness to drive into rules that most people would rather avoid. Jordan is that person. He brings clarity when things are complicated, keeps us consistent, and makes sure we're doing things the right way. It is easily one of the most important roles within the organization, and Jordan has been able to step into it with confidence and consistency from day one. I am incredibly grateful for the stability he brings to our Senate. And finally, our Senate Outreach Officer, Lofton Reberg. This is our newest position, only being created not even 2 weeks ago, but it fills a really important gap, because at the end of the day, none of the work we do matters if students don't know about it or feel connected to it. Lofton has eagerly taken on that responsibility just a few weeks before he graduates, immediately getting to work to leave the position better than he found it. And all of that work, from leadership to outreach to everything in between, is only possible because of the support this organization receives. We do have a silent auction right over there, and I want to thank our sponsors, the football team, the City of Whitewater, Bilgen Rentals LLC, the bookstore, Intercollegiate Athletics, Magic Stitches Crochet, the Young Performing Arts Center, Toppers, Jessica's Family Restaurant, Lofton and Caitlin for the breadbasket, University Housing, and American Awards and Promotion for making tonight possible. Dinner will be coming up soon, but we're going to dismiss tables one at a time, so just hang tight until your table is called, and we'll make sure everything runs smoothly. More than anything, I want to say thank you to everyone involved in WSG, whether you're a senator, on the executive board, a committee member, or someone who has supported the organization in any way. You're the reason it works. And to everyone here tonight, your support matters more than you probably realize. So enjoy the night, check out the silent auction, celebrate the people around you, and we'll begin dismissing tables shortly. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I want to keep interrupting you while you eat, continue eating. But I have the pleasure of introducing someone who recently stepped away from our organization and is about to step back to it in a pretty significant role, I'd say. It is my pleasure to introduce our student body president-elect, Isaiah Christian Wilson.
Look at that. There we go. I've got good placement in the night. I've heard, right, that like the best time to see a judge is right after lunch. And it's got to be a similar thing for speaking. Like everybody just ate the great food. So I just hang in there with me. It's good to be here with you all. Am I good? Am I being heard well? Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Howdy, Warhawks, as I've been accustomed to saying soon. This is my 4th WSG end of the year celebration. And it's my 2nd annual gala. So we're starting a new thing. And that's important because once is a fluke, and twice is a pattern, and 3 is a tradition. So fingers crossed that we land the plane on the gala next year. At last year's gala, when I was in Nick Patrikas's position as Speaker of the Senate, I started with these remarks. Tonight is not just another event on our calendars. It's a declaration that shared governance matters, that student voices matter, and that this campus is stronger when every seat at the table is filled with purpose. Over the past year, that phrase, a seat at the table, became more than just a line in a speech for me. It became the foundation of Paige and I's campaign. But a seat at the table is not the end of the conversation. One of my favorite political quotes that began to resonate with me more deeply recently is that you campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. And recently I've begun to understand the difference between the two is something akin to the difference between writing a good love song and building a strong marriage. So it's quite different. One is about inspiration. The other is about consistency and effort, follow through. And our story, for the students in the room, for those who will be joining us into the next year, our story will no longer be granted the luxury of being judged by the promises that we make. So instead of disappearing and leaving students to wonder whether or not we ever did what we said we'd do, we'll invite them to judge what we produce over the next year. Because if Warhawks really are bold, a student government of Warhawks should be just as bold. And so tonight, I'd like to do something bold and be clear about what I think we're going to do over the next 380 days, exactly. And I am counting. First, just before this gala in this room, we held the Involvement Awards. And there might be no better reminder that this campus is full of student organizations waiting to be connected with. In the coming year, we'll meet them where they are. We'll show up to their meetings, we'll reach out to collaborate, and make sure every student organization knows that their voice matters. Because engagement isn't passive, we need to actively engage in engagement. Second, transparency. Transparency is not just a buzzword for us. It'll be a culture of openness. We'll deliver a clear summary of all the decisions we make, visible progress on the initiatives that we run. Because shared governance thrives when every student understands that they can access their representation. Third, we'll focus on the future. We won't just react to the issues of today, we'll build a future for students. We'll set long-term plans, thinking beyond our own terms, because leadership isn't just about today, it's about setting up the next generation for success. As I close, I was thinking about how I wanted to end this. And I had something written, and I scrapped it all right before this, because yesterday we were at the governor's mansion for the end-of-the-year shared governance reception. And I got the opportunity to speak after a gentleman named Professor Britz, and he talked about what he thinks shared governance at the UW system level means. And why it's so important in Wisconsin. And I said, I think I want to end with that tomorrow. So Doug and Abbie and I and Paige and all the leaders we've had over the last couple of years, we've developed what we call a call-first mentality. So to the parents in the room, to the donors, to the university stakeholders, and most importantly, the students who I will continue to do this work with, what makes shared governance special on this campus, all across the state, is that we engage with the people we do it with. If you have a plan and it might upset somebody, call them and let them know. If you have a plan and it might excite somebody, call them and let them know. I am excited to engage in this work together with you all over the next year, and I cannot do it without all of your help. And that goes for the university stakeholders. That goes for all the parents in the room who give their children so much support. Thank you to my stepmom Myrna and to my father who are in the back there. He's wearing a very snazzy yellow tie. Can we give it up for my folks? Is that okay? I couldn't be here without them, and I cannot do any of the large plans that we have for next year without a ton of student support. So another shout out to Paige for being there whenever I need you. So I appreciate that. Thank you all very much, and I am excited to engage in this work with you for the coming year. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you, Isaiah. I have been asked to remind you all about the silent auction again by our dear leader, so make sure you check that out. Also, there's a bar on the other side of the room, so if you hit bar and then the silent auction, and in that order, we'll get a great turnout. The next person I want to introduce is Ms. Abigail Reiser, our Vice President, Student Body Vice President. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. Just flipping to my script. All right. So, thank you for being here for a night dedicated to celebrating the work happening across campus. I want to take you to a moment that I think a lot of us know really well. It's a Monday night. We're in UC 259. It's 11 p.m. The building just closed, and we've just adjourned after a 4-hour meeting. If you tried to explain that to someone outside of this room, they'd probably think we're a little crazy. And honestly, at times, we might agree. But there's a reason we keep showing up. And that commitment isn't unique to WSG. Can everyone hear me? Okay, this is better. Across this campus, it shows up in different ways. Whether it's a late night meeting, time spent preparing for class, advising students, planning an event, or working behind the scenes to keep things running, so many of us in this room have had our own version of that moment. A moment where the time doesn't really matter because you care about the outcome. We talk a lot about purpose, about improving the student experience, but that's just the headline. The reality of that work looks a lot different. It's debating standing rules late into the night. It's asking how we can reduce fees for students. It's sitting in meetings about dining, about academics, about policies most people never think about. It's tabling in the UC, asking students what's working and what isn't. And if you strip all of that down, there's a common thread running through it. It's continuous improvement. And at its core, continuous improvement isn't about having all of the answers. It's about staying curious. It's being willing to ask questions, even when you don't fully understand something yet. It's learning out loud instead of waiting until you feel like you have everything figured out. And it's having the humility to invite in perspectives that might challenge your own. I've been part of this organization for 3.5 years now. I started as a senator, then served as the director of academic affairs for 2.5 years, and now I've stepped into the role of vice president this semester. And looking back, I think curiosity has been the one constant that's carried me through all of it. One of the first conversations I remember having in this organization was being asked what areas I was interested in. And I said curriculum, which looking back might be an interesting answer for a new freshman. But it came from growing up in a family of educators and from being interested in how learning actually works, like what students are expected to do and how those expectations are set. And that answer ended up shaping a lot of what I've worked on since. From advising to the excused absence policy to career services to helping students navigate academic concerns, it all ties back to that same curiosity. Not because I had a solid 4-year plan, but because I kept following my interests and passion for helping people. And I think this is something that applies to everyone here. We all care about improving the student experience, but the way that actually happens looks different for each of us. I think we all have different outlets, different areas where our interests naturally connect to this work. For me, that's been academics and education. For someone else, it might be student organizations, or campus life, or student fees, policy, or outreach. But the connection point is the same. It starts with something that you're curious about. When I was younger, I thought I was going to be a teacher, and in a lot of ways, that hasn't really changed. It's just taken a different form. Because in this work, you're constantly balancing 2 roles. You're being an educator as you represent the student perspective, helping others understand what students are experiencing, but you're also learning from people who have been in the higher education landscape for years, who bring a different perspective to the table. And the only way that works is if you're willing to both speak with confidence and to listen with curiosity. And I think that's something this campus does really well. The fact that students are invited into these conversations, into a room with faculty, staff, and administrators, where ideas can be questioned, challenged, and built on, that's not something every place has. This work only happens because there are people willing to sit in those rooms with us, to listen, and to take those questions seriously. And being in those rooms, I started to see it play out. For faculty and instructional staff, I saw it in the way they approach their craft, teaching, researching, and continuing to explore a subject they care deeply about and thinking about how to take an idea and make it click for students. For administrators and staff, I saw in how they think about their areas, how systems operate, how departments function, and how to make those experiences better for students. And for us as students, I've seen it in how we think about our own experiences, what's working, what's not, and what could be better. But even though it looks different, it's all rooted in the same thing. It's people who care enough to keep asking questions. So as I wrap up my time in this role, I'd leave you with this. The curiosity that brought you into UC 259 on a Monday night, that pushed you to the podium and share your story, that curiosity is not something this organization is lacking. You've seen it this year in the decisions that weren't easy, in the time spent rethinking processes, in the willingness to question whether what's always been done is still the best way forward. So this isn't about asking you to be curious, it's about what you will do with it next. What's something you're curious about? Something you questioned or thought could be better but haven't fully explored yet? The next meaningful change on this campus doesn't start with an answer, it starts with a question someone decides to follow. And the way you choose to follow that, how you turn it into conversations, into questions, into action, that's what helps move us all forward. And this room is one of the places where those questions can turn into something meaningful, where a conversation became an idea, where an idea becomes a proposal, and where that proposal can change the student experience. But a lot of that work isn't visible. It's not the spotlight moments, it's everything that make those moments possible. And in a lot of ways, it's like we're all kind of like a street lighting crew. No applause when the light bulbs go out, but total chaos when the light bulbs work, but total chaos if they burn out. So keep your attention on the quiet parts of the work. Keep asking the questions, the ones that don't always get recognition and the ones that take time to work through, because that's what keeps things moving forward, even if no one's clapping for it in the moment. As we continue with the night, I hope you take the time to appreciate everything that's been accomplished this year and the role each of you has played in it. Words cannot describe how grateful I am for this organization, but even more so for all the people I've had the opportunity to work alongside. People who have challenged my thinking, expanded my perspective, and made this experience what it is. It's allowed me to take the curiosity and turn it into something meaningful, and I hope each of you continues to do the same. Thank you for the privilege of learning alongside you for the past 3.5 years.
Now I have the pleasure to introduce our advisor, Mrs. Kimberly Clarksen.
Good evening, everyone. I have had the honor of serving as the interim advisor this past semester for Whitewater Student Government. As with any meaningful work that we do with students, I feel like I've learned as much as I hope that they've learned from me and from working as a team together. I really don't have a long speech to share. I wanted to spend a moment just thanking all of the staff in the room that have really helped in collaborating on different projects. Nicole Cervantes with SUFAC advising, and Janine Peterson advising student government at Rock. Same thing. And there are so many more people that I would hate to even try to get everyone, but please know I really appreciate the time that I've spent with the staff in helping make this work. and even more so, the time that I've spent with the students on student government. I really am thankful for the opportunity that I've had to serve in this interim role. I won't be advising the group again in the fall, but know that I will always be a supporter of student government and a supporter of each of you as representatives in student government and as students and as alumni. I can't wait to see all of the wonderful things that you accomplish in all of those places. So thank you for this opportunity, and on with the show.
I know she just sat down, but she's going to have to come up again. Miss Abbie Reiser with some recognition of the executive board.
Hello again. So I'm going to take a moment to honor our e-board. So I'm first going to start with Paige. So Paige, if you'd like to come join me up at the front. So Paige has been our Director of Communications for the past 2 years, and she has brought a strong level of adaptability to the role. She's always willing to jump in on short notice, whether that's creating a graphic last minute or making edits to something that's already in progress. She approaches her work with the creativity the role demands. But what I've appreciated most is how she brings others into that process. She's been very intentional about engaging the senators in her communications committee, giving them opportunities to contribute rather than just assigning tasks. That was especially evident in the work leading up to this gala. She tasked her committee with creating RSVP graphic concepts and then facilitated a discussion to refine those ideas and pull together a final set of recommendations. This reflects how she works. It's collaborative, open-minded, and focused on getting the best outcomes. So thank you, Paige, for all of your great work. All right, next I'll move on to Olivia. Olivia, you want to come on up? So Olivia is our current Director of Academic Affairs, and I had the opportunity to work closely with her last semester when she served as the Associate Director. From the start, I appreciated her innovative perspective, always grounded in the goal of building on and elevating the work that had already been done. One of her most impactful contributions was her work in the online course fee working group. She built a spreadsheet to track whether required courses across degree programs were offered in person, using course data from fall 2023 through this semester, spring 2026. This included analyzing 327 individual courses requiring a significant level of detail and time. While conversations around the online course fees are still ongoing, her work provided a strong data-informed foundation for continued progress. This is just one example of her dedication to improving the academic student experience and her willingness to take on projects with thoughtfulness and an eye for developing new solutions. So thank you so much. All right, and next up, Maddie. You want to come on up? So Maddie currently serves as the Director of Student Affairs, but her path into this role wasn't typical. She stepped in as an Associate Director during a vacancy, and within a couple of weeks, transitioned into the Director role during a period of transition. Despite how fast everything shifted, she handled it in a way that was steady and controlled. Student Affairs is known for being very reactive, often requiring quick responses and constant adjustment. But she didn't treat it as just moving from one issue to the next. She made sure we weren't only reacting in the moment, but taking the time to understand what students were experiencing and how to respond in a way that would pulled up beyond that specific situation. That showed up in the way that she gathered feedback on Greek life. She didn't treat it as just collecting responses, but really focused on making sure the input was meaningful and could be used in conversations moving forward. That the same was true with her planning on the campus initiative called It's On Us. She partnered with Keaton, the Associate Director of Student Affairs, to carry out the initiative, contributing to the coordination and follow-through needed to make it successful. Across everything, she was consistent. She didn't cut corners, and she didn't lose focus when things got busy. That level of diligence is what made her work stand out. Thank you, Maddie. And in the student affairs territory, we'll go ahead and bring up Keaton. So Keaton is our Associate Director of Student Affairs, also stepping into the role during the end of last semester during a transition. From the start, he brought a sense of humor to the office while still taking the work seriously. He also brings a unique perspective through his experience as an RA. He was thinking about how to make resources easier to access and more useful for students in a practical way. That showed up in how he structured work within the Student Affairs Committee. He had senators take ownership of specific departments, like housing or dining, and dig deeper into those areas. It allowed the committee to better understand existing resources and think about how WSG could help make students more aware of them. He approaches the role in a way that's practical and focused, always thinking about how the work translates to the student experience. So thank you, Keaton, for your great work. All right, and last but not least, Sadie. So as clerk, Sadie has been in a role that requires a high level of precision and accountability. From maintaining records to ensuring procedures were followed correctly, her work demanded constant attention to detail and a strong understanding of how everything fits together. Over the course of the year, she successfully ran the Senate election in the fall and the executive election in the spring. Each comes with its own timeline, moving parts, and expectations outlined in the standing rules, all of which she had to understand inside and out. Throughout both processes, there are often unexpected situations, including questions and procedure or potential violations that require quick but careful judgment. A lot of that work happens behind the scenes, whether it's managing election logistics or sitting through our meetings and accurately documenting discussions in the minutes. She had to keep track of every part. It's clear that being clerk isn't something you can step away from. She stayed on top of the timelines, details, and procedures in a way that kept both elections and everything in between on track. She approached the role with a level of diligence and awareness that the clerk position depends on. So thank you, Sadie. And with that, I'll pass it back to Nick.
This is my favorite part of the night, I have to say. It's time for Senator of the Year, which we hear a lot about prestigious awards. This is the most prestigious one in my mind, so I'm not biased at all either. But Senator of the Year is an award that recognizes a senator who has gone above and beyond in their service to the organization and to the students they represent. This is someone who shows up consistently, contributes meaningfully, and takes their responsibility seriously, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. Each year, senators are able to nominate their peers, recognizing the individuals they see putting in the work every single day. From those nominations, the top 4 finalists are identified, and from that group, I get to select the final one. I don't know if this is how it usually works, but most people nominated themselves this year, which, I would do the same thing. If I could, if you're one of the top 4 finalists, just have you stand up here. Courtney Majors. We're going to make sure to applaud every single one of you. Danny Lang. Jordan Purnell. And over to a different table this time with Lofton Reberg. You can sit down. I don't want to keep you standing. Unless you want to stand, you're free to, but this year's recipient is someone who has made an impact across nearly every part of the organization. Someone who has stepped into roles not just to fill them, but to improve them. Someone who understands how this organization works, and more importantly, how it can work better. They are someone who people turn to when things get complicated, whether that's on the Senate floor, in a committee, or just when they don't know who to go to. But just as importantly, this is someone people turn to outside of work as well. Someone who's approachable, who listens, and who makes others feel welcome in this organization. Someone who is always willing to help, whether that's taking on extra work, talking something through, or just being there when someone needs it. And that presence, the ability to care about the people around him, is just as important as anything he's accomplished. This is going to go away, I'm sorry. He has been a member of the Segregated University Fee Allocation Committee and was recently elected as its Vice Chair of Educational Outreach. The last one, I have to say. He has approached that work with thoughtfulness, always considering different perspectives and making decisions with students in mind. He's played a direct role in shaping and passing amendments to one of the documents that governs this organization. And on the very same day a new position was created, he was elected as its first ever holder, not just stepping in to fill the role, but wanting to define what it could be, helping build a foundation for future members of this organization to rely on. That's why, when posed with the question of who to select, not only was this far and away the senator with the most nominations, when it came time to make this decision, there really wasn't one. The 2026 Senator of the Year is Lofton Reberg.
Good evening, everybody. I might be a bit biased as well, Nick, but I think the Executive Board of the Year award is a little more prestigious. This year's Executive Board Member of the Year is someone who stepped into leadership, not because timing was perfect, but because the moment demanded it. This individual first stepped into a role on an interim basis during a vacancy, and within just a few weeks transitioned into leading the entire area during a period of significant turnover. That kind of shift can create instability, but here, it didn't. Instead, it was met with steadiness, control, and a clear sense of direction. The work of this position is often reactive. It requires quick decisions, constant adjustment, and the ability to respond in real time. But what made this leader stand out is that they didn't just move from one issue to the next. They made sure we weren't just reacting. They made sure we were understanding. They took time to dig into what students were actually experiencing and focused on responses that would hold up beyond a single moment. That intentionality showed clearly in their work gathering feedback, was shown clearly in their work gathering feedback on Greek life. This wasn't treated as a box to check, but an opportunity to ensure student input was meaningful, actionable, and able to inform real conversations moving forward. The same approach carried into their work on a major campus initiative where they partnered closely with their team to ensure not just execution, but coordination and follow-through. And across all of it, They were consistent. No shortcuts, no loss of focus when things got busy, just steady, thoughtful leadership from start to finish. That level of diligence, that kind of work doesn't always demand attention, but always delivers results, is exactly what defines this award. It is my honor to recognize this year's Executive Board Member of the Year, Madeline Rosequist. I will call up Abbie for our scholarship.
Hello again. The WSG Commitment to Service Scholarship is a prestigious award given to a current member who exemplifies servant leadership and a deep commitment to the student body. It recognizes someone who is not only willing to lead, but also to listen, learn, and represent others with integrity. Rooted in the legacy of shared governance at UW-Whitewater, this award honors those who carry forward a tradition of advocacy and commitment to improving the student experience for all. This scholarship is awarded through an application process, with recipients selected by the University Student Affairs Leadership using a comprehensive evaluation rubric. This year's recipient embodies that spirit through both their involvement and the way they approach their roles. As both a senator and parliamentarian, they have contributed meaningfully to shared governance, bringing a strong understanding of the organization's structure while actively engaging in the evaluation and passage of legislation. They balance big picture thinking with attention to detail, ensuring decisions are both impactful and grounded in the policies that guide the organization. Their commitment to service also shows up in the work that often can go unnoticed. As chair of the Constitutional Revision Committee, they have led conversations that balance structure with inclusion, making sure members feel heard while guiding meaningful updates to governing documents. On the Internal Evaluations Committee, they approach accountability with fairness and objectivity, reinforcing a culture of trust. And through their work on SUFAC, they have reviewed student organization budgets and made funding recommendations with a strong sense of neutrality and responsibility. What sets this individual apart is how they define service beyond formal roles. Their leadership reflects the belief that advocacy isn't limited to meetings or titles. It's about paying attention when it matters, or paying attention, inviting others into the conversation, and stepping in when it matters. They create space for different perspectives, making sure people feel heard and included in the decision-making process. At the same time, they consistently act on behalf of others, even in moments that aren't visible, demonstrating that servant leadership is often found in the choices made when no one is watching. Congratulations to Lofton Reberg on being the recipient of the 2026 WSG Commitment to Service Scholarship.
You know what, Nick? I think we can agree that we're on to the most prestigious award now. Nope. Thank you. All righty. The Jan Bilgen Compassionate Leadership Award exists to recognize a rare kind of leadership. Not just effectiveness, not just visibility, but leadership grounded in care for others. Leadership that makes people feel seen, supported, and stronger because of it. This year, for the first time ever, 2 individuals embody that standard so fully and so consistently that Nick, Jan, and I found ourselves in a position where we couldn't choose between them. Because doing so would have missed the very point of the award itself. Our first recipient is someone who leads with both conviction and heart, someone who understands that the work we do is not just about titles, recognition, or being the loudest person in the room. It is about people. This person has been, in every sense, a steady and compassionate force within this organization. They show up not just when it's easy, but when it is necessary. They listen when others might rush to speak. They support when others might need to step back. And they lead in a way that makes everyone around them feel more capable, more valued, and more seen. Their commitment to student success has not always come through grand gestures, but through consistent, thoughtful action. They have been a voice of reason in moments of tension, a source of encouragement when it was needed most, and a reminder that how we treat one another matters just as much as what we accomplish. Their leadership reflects the very spirit of Jan Bilgen, grounded, compassionate, humble, and always centered around others. It is my honor to recognize our first recipient of the Jan Bilgen Compassionate Leadership Award, Abbie Reiser.
And our second recipient is someone whose leadership is defined not by recognition, but by impact. This recipient represents the kind of leader every organization hopes to have, someone who leads with humility, who works with intention, and who consistently puts the needs of others before their own. Their contributions to the Whitewater student government have been significant, but what sets him apart is the way he carries those contributions out. He approaches challenges with patience, engages others with respect, and ensures that every voice in the room has value. He has been a compassionate and steady presence, someone people turn to not just for answers, but for understanding. His ability to navigate complex situations while maintaining empathy and integrity speaks directly to the kind of leadership this award was created to honor. Like Jan Bilgen, this person leads in a way that prioritizes people. He reminds us that leadership is not about being the loudest voice in the room, but by making sure others are heard. For his commitment to this organization, for his dedication to student success, and for the compassion he brings to every space he enters. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to talk about you earlier. We are proud to recognize Oren Smith as the second recipient of the Jan Bilgen Compassionate Leadership Award. I hope this makes up for not speaking about you earlier. Miss Abbie Reiser.
Hello. All right, so tonight, this is my last time you'll see me up here. I have the honor of recognizing someone whose impact on this organization and on this university is hard to fully capture in a few words or minutes. Jan Bilgen's connection to University of Wisconsin-Whitewater began as a student, where she studied instrumental music education. Even then, her involvement reflected the kind of leader she would become. She was active across campus in Whitewater student government, the Warhawk Marching Band, Student Foundation, and more, taking on roles like student body vice president and helping lead the effort to redesign student government structure into what it is today. But what stands out isn't just the number of roles she held. It's the way she shows up for people. Over the course of her career, Jan served in a wide range of roles across student involvement and leadership development, ultimately serving as Director of Student Activities and Involvement. And for many of us in this room, she has been a constant through one role in particular, serving as the Whitewater Student Government Advisor from 2003 until her retirement this year. That's over 2 decades of showing up for students, and not just in the big, visible moments, but in the small ones too. Jan has a way of making people feel seen. She listens first, asks thoughtful questions, and creates space for students to figure things out, while still being there to guide them when it matters most. She doesn't lead by taking over. She leads by helping others grow more confident in their own voice. Some of my favorite moments are the drop-ins that I had in her office, where I knew I could count on her for honest advice. And I'm sure many of us here can relate to that as well. Those moments reflect something bigger, her undeniable dedication to student success. She goes beyond what is expected to support the people around her, investing in students not just as leaders within an organization, but as individuals navigating their own paths. She takes the time to understand their goals, their challenges, and where they're trying to grow, offering guidance when it's needed, advocating behind the scenes, and always being someone students can rely on. And because of that, her impact lasts. She meets students where they are, whether they're stepping into leadership for the first time or preparing to graduate, and approaches every conversation with the same level of care, respect, and belief in who they can become. This organization established the Jan Bilgen Compassionate Leadership Award, and that name feels very fitting, not just because of what she's accomplished, but because of how she's done it, with patience, with empathy, and with a genuine commitment to helping others grow. Jan, your impact isn't just in the policies that were shaped or the programs that were built. It's in the people in this room and the way they lead because of you. On behalf of the students of the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, thank you for your years of service, your dedication, and the example you've set for all of us. All of us have put together a binder. There's letters from students in here, so if you want to come up and come get this binder, feel free to do that. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Doug for the... Nick is coming up. I think I took his job on accident.
You'll never guess what I have to say. It is final call for a silent auction. Final call, I repeat. If there's anything you want to see, I was just over there. I saw just a few bids on a few things. I saw one thing that only had one bid. So you got 10 minutes, and then we will be up here for our last address of the night. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce someone who doesn't really need an introduction. If you ask him what he does in student government, he'll say he's a part of it. And then I know that pisses Isaiah off, but it is our dear leader, Mr. Douglas Allen Bradley III, 2-term student body president.
Thank you, Nick. As Nick mentioned, I am the third, and when bidding on those helmets, I very intentionally wrote Doug Bradley. So I will come talk to you two gentlemen afterwards. When writing a speech for an event like this, it can be pretty difficult, mainly for 2 reasons. The first being we have a wide variety of people in the room. I have to appeal to all of them. We have students, faculty, staff, administrators, family, friends, alumni, supporters, and just folks who want to have a good time. The second part is this is the last speech of the night. I know many of you are itching to go home, so I'll do my best to keep it brief. I've cut down this draft of the speech. It's significantly shorter than the original draft, so you're welcome. I want to take a few minutes tonight to say something that matters to me. Because for me, this is something that it's not just another speech. We'll put it that way. It's not just another event. This is one of those moments when you look around the room and realize that a chapter of your life is beginning to close. And even if you're excited for what comes next, there is something deeply emotional about realizing that the people, the places, and the routines that shaped you will soon just be memories. Over the course of my 4 years at this institution, and especially during my time in the Whitewater student government, I have learned more than I ever expected. I've learned about leadership. I've learned about service. I've learned about conflict, pressure, disappointment, sacrifice, friendship, love, and responsibility. I've learned that leadership is not always glamorous. Sometimes leadership is not standing behind a podium and giving a speech and shaking hands. Sometimes it is. Sometimes leadership is answering emails late at night when you're exhausted. Sometimes it's walking into a meeting where you know the conversation will be quite difficult. Sometimes it's being criticized by people who do not see the full picture. And sometimes it's about trying to hold yourself together because others are relying on you to be steady. There is a quote that I find to be rather pertinent to our work. President Ronald Reagan once said, "You don't become president of the United States. You are given temporary custody of an institution called the presidency, which belongs to our people." Now, of course, I am not the president of the United States, although I'd say sometimes my Outlook calendar looks like it. But it's the same principle. A title is not something you own. It is something entrusted to you. A presidency, a speakership, a directorship, and a Senate seat are not accolades, they're a responsibility. The Whitewater student government does not belong to any one president, any one administrator, any one generation of student leaders. It belongs to the students that are here now, the students who are yet to come, the students who came before us. That is what makes leadership humbling. You're not building something for yourself, you're building something for people who care about what you care about. You were trusted with it just for a little while. And then, when your time is done, you hand it off to someone else and hope you left it stronger than you found it, and you really hope they care for it as well as you did. As I look back on my time here, there are 3 lessons from 3 different people that I will take with me for the rest of my life. And I'd like to share those 3 lessons with you today. The first lesson I learned was from Isaiah. About 3 months into Isaiah being the Speaker of the Senate, this was in the fall of 2024, things were tense between us. And for those of you who know Isaiah and I, we are best friends, right? But things got a little difficult when we both became the heads of our respective branches. We'd been fighting over different pieces of legislation that were going before the Senate. It felt like every issue became bigger than it needed to be, and every disagreement had a whole group of people behind it, each arguing for its case. Isaiah's Senate officers were demanding that he not work with me, and my directors were refusing to work with Isaiah. People on both sides were frustrated, people were talking, people were choosing teams, and somewhere in the middle of all that, 2 friends, Doug and Isaiah, were being pulled apart by an organization they both cared deeply about. It was, to put it lightly, a total mess. So one night, Isaiah and I had a heartfelt conversation in the hallway of our older apartment building. It was not a formal meeting. There was no agenda. It was just 2 exhausted people standing in a hallway under a flickering light, trying to figure out what to do with the work we love and what to do when it started to damage our friendship that we valued. Eventually, we came to a decision that we thought was quite mature. Looking back at it, didn't last very long. We decided that our work and the people who worked for us had to come first. We convinced ourselves that our friendship was becoming too complicated. We told ourselves that maybe the responsible thing to do was take a step back from one another. Maybe we could still respect one another, still work together when necessary, but no longer be friends, at least not in the way that we had been. So Isaiah and I said goodbye. Not goodbye in a casual way, we really meant it. There was a handshake, hug, and then tears, and then we literally walked two separate directions. We said goodbye to a friendship, fully prepared to embrace a purely business relationship. We shook hands, wished each other well, and walked away from one another, believing that we had just made the mature decision. At the time, Isaiah was training for a marathon, so to clear his mind, he went on a run. I elected to watch a movie. I was in the mood for a good war movie, and the first one I found, which I thought I was watching, was a war movie. It was called Taking Chance with Kevin Bacon. Has anybody seen it? Horrifically sad movie. I thought it was a war movie. Kevin Bacon was going to be a great time. It's not. It's about a Marine escorting the remains of a fallen Marine home. Horrifically sad movie. Anyways, I'm watching this movie. I'm getting kind of down on myself. Like, wow, Isaiah and I just kind of said goodbye. Kevin Bacon's really great at acting. And Jan called me. And she goes, do you know that the Northern Lights are visible right now? And I go, you know what? This is a great opportunity for me to leave Taking Chance and to go look at the sky. And so right then and there, I got into the car and I drove to a field north of campus. And when I got there, I saw the most beautiful night sky. It was glowing. Did people see it when it was around? It was absolutely gorgeous. It was glowing. It was quiet. It was peaceful. It was one of those rare moments when the world felt much bigger than whatever problems we were carrying. And as I sat there looking at the sky, thinking about everything that happened that night, I noticed a little red light out in the distance, kind of bouncing up and down, and I go, what is that light? It was a guy running, but it wasn't Isaiah, because he was like tall and white and athletic, and so he was kind of bouncing, and I go, well, that kind of looks like Travis Erath, our good friend. Wait a second, Isaiah just went running with Travis. Where is Isaiah? And I look about 300 yards behind Travis, and there's Isaiah, much smaller, running much slower, and he looks like he just ran 6 marathons in a row, almost crawling at this point. And so my first thought was, I really hope he doesn't think I'm stalking him. Because from his point of view, I was, right? That's what it looked like. And I was worried. Well, what is this conversation going to be like? We just had, a really mature conversation about we need to do what's best for us and our people, and we need to say goodbye. I'm about to say hello, and it's been 4 hours. And he came to the car, and we talked, and I don't know how else to explain that moment. Me watching Taking Chance, Isaiah going on a run, me being upset because Taking Chance is horrifically sad, Jan calling me and saying, go look at the sky, and I go to the one spot where Isaiah's running. I don't know how to describe it except a divine intervention. The same night we noticed our friendship was over, we somehow ended up in the same field under the Northern Lights at the exact same time. That does not just happen. At least I don't think it does. If it does regularly, then Hallmark movies are correct, and I don't think that to be true. So we both took it as a sign. We had made the wrong decision. We had convinced ourselves that leadership required us to give up our friendship. We had convinced ourselves that the work was more important than our relationship. That night taught me if your service to others causes you to lose the people you love, then somewhere along the way, something is going wrong. Yes, the work matters. Yes, responsibility matters. Yes, the institution matters. But no title, no office, no vote, no bill, no meeting, and no conflict is worth losing the people who make your life meaningful. So Isaiah, thank you for teaching me that your work, my work, can never and will never be more important than my relationships with the people I love. Thank you. That was lesson 1. They get a little shorter. That one had a story. No, do not worry. I see the faces of my family. It's okay. The second lesson I learned was from Abbie. Those of you who know me know that when I'm focused on my work and trying to accomplish a specific task, I can get a bit intense. All right, snaps, I get a laugh from Jan. But those of you who know my father know exactly where I get it from. So, when I'm locked in on something, I want it done. I want it done correctly. I want it done quickly. I want the goal reached, the problem solved, and the next step started. That can be a strength. It can also be a weakness. Because sometimes when you are so focused on getting something done, you can forget that people are not tasks. People are not obstacles. People are not just names on an agenda or votes in a room. People are people. Abbie never forgot that. In moments where I lacked patience, Abbie brought grace. In moments where I wanted to move quickly, Abbie reminded me to slow down. In moments when I focused on the problem, Abbie focused on the person. She's been a consistent beacon of kindness, empathy, and compassion. She listens to people, not because she has to, not because it's politically useful, or not because someone has a title that makes them worth listening to. She listens because she believes people deserve to be heard. That is rare. In student government, it is easy to get caught up in the formal parts of leadership. Agendas, bylaws, motions, legislation, votes, appointments, meetings, committees, procedures. I can go on. I won't. These things matter. They help us function. They help us govern. They give structure to the work we do. But Abbie reminded me that none of those things matter if we forget the people behind them. A student concern is not just an agenda item. A disagreement is not just a problem to get through. A frustrated student is not just someone making your day harder. Behind every issue we deal with, there is a person who wants to be respected, who wants to be heard, and wants to be taken seriously. Abbie taught me that good leaders are compassionate leaders. They do not just lead from the front of the room, they lead by sitting with people. And this is kind of ironic now that I'm looking at it. Sitting with people, they lead by listening. And they lead by making others feel seen. And I think one of the greatest mistakes people make in leadership is assuming that kindness makes you weak. It's a weakness. It's not. It's not true. Kindness is not a weakness. Compassion is not a weakness. Patience is not a weakness. The ability to care about people, even when you are tired, even when you are frustrated, even when it would be easier not to, is one of the strongest forms of leadership there is. So, Abbie, thank you for teaching me that good leaders are compassionate leaders. The final lesson I learned was from Jan, wonderful Jan Bilgen. During my third semester on campus, Jan's heard the story a lot of times. During my third semester on campus, I was both a homecoming intern and the Whitewater Student Government's Director of Student Affairs. These two roles pulled me in completely different directions. I was not able to give my all to either of them. And at the time, I did not want to admit that. I thought I could do everything and anything I set my mind to. And I thought if I just worked harder, stayed up a little later, answered more emails, attended more meetings, and pushed myself just a little further, I could make it all work. Then one day, my boss's boss, Jan Bilgen, called me into her office for a conversation. I thought this was unusual. She told me I had to quit one of my jobs. She said I was not taking care of myself. I wasn't doing really stellar work on either. You should quit one. And I was furious. I remember thinking, who is this woman? She doesn't even know me. I can do this. This is bonkers. So I did what every good son does, and I called my mom to complain. After I expressed my opinions to Jan, I called my mom to complain. And what I expected was for mom to say, like, oh man, this Jan lady's crazy. That's not what happened. My mom goes, well, maybe she's right. Betrayal. I could not believe it. Betrayed by my own mother. But after we talked, I had realized Jan was right. And more importantly, I realized that my mother and Jan were right. So I went back to Jan and I quit one of my jobs. And afterwards, I was quite relieved. My schedule became less overwhelming. My stress went down significantly. I was able to breathe again, I was able to do better work, but more importantly, I was able to be a healthier person. That conversation taught me something I will struggle with. I still struggle with, but something I'll always carry with me. You can't serve others well if you completely abandon yourself in the process. Jan taught me that taking care of yourself is not selfish, it's a necessity. She taught me that sometimes the best leaders are not the people who say yes to everything. Sometimes the best leaders are the people who are honest enough to know their limits. So Jan, thank you for teaching me to prioritize myself even when I was too stubborn to see that I needed to. Thank you. As I think about these 3 lessons, and it's been a little while since the first one, so I'll remind you, Isaiah taught me about relationships and how they're important, more important than work. Abbie taught me that good leaders are compassionate leaders, and Jan taught me that taking care of yourself matters because you too are a person worthy of care. The common denominator there is people. People are involved in all of those. The combination of these lessons is the message I leave you with today. So if you have a notebook, write this down. Make people your mission. Make people your mission. Not your title, not your ego, not your resume, not the argument you want to win, not the political game you think you are playing. People. Because when people are your mission, conflict cannot be. Ego cannot be. Drama can't be. Internal politics can't be. And I'll say this to you as clearly as I can. If you are lucky enough to be trusted with leadership, then you do not have the luxury of making everything about yourself. Because when you are representing the interests of over 12,200 Warhawks, whose bills are ever growing, whose world is ever changing, whose future might get a little better or a little worse depending on what you do throughout the course of the day, it is best as though to look that managing internal organizational politics was not more than you could manage. But even more than that, it is best to make sure internal organizational politics never become the work. The work is students. The work is service. The work is people. And if we forget that, then we can pass every bill, win every argument, chair every meeting, and hold every title, and still fall short of the thing that matters most. Because leadership is not about proving that you are important. It's about proving that the people you serve are important. It's about walking into a room and asking, who needs to be heard? And not, how do I win? It's about choosing patience when conflict would be easier. It is about choosing humility when your pride wants the microphone. It is about choosing service when ego wants your attention. And yes, sometimes it is hard. People will test you. Sometimes people will disappoint you. Sometimes people will make you work harder than it needs to be, and you work harder than you have to work. But if your mission's people, then you do not meet pettiness with pettiness. You do not meet ego with ego. You do not let conflict become your legacy. You rise above it, you serve anyway, and you remember why we are all here. If you want to be a successful business person, build something that gives back to people who need it. If you want to be a politician, write policies that reflect the needs and hopes of your constituents, not just policies that are a sorry attempt to promote yourself. If you want to be a teacher, administrator, advisor, public servant, community leader, etc., remember that your work only matters because people matter. None of us would be here today if it wasn't for students. And if you have no idea what you want to do with your life, it's not too late. But start by putting people first, and your calling will reveal itself. Your calling may not reveal itself all at once. You may not have every answer. You may not know exactly where you are going to go. But if you choose people over pride, compassion over conflict, and service over self-importance, you will not be walking in the wrong direction. So my lesson to you is simple. Make people your mission. Put them above conflict, put them above politics, put them above the noise. The Whitewater student government has never been perfect. No institution made up of the people ever is, and that's the beauty of it. But at its best, WSG is a place where students learn to care deeply about something bigger than themselves. It is a place where students argue, grow, fall, apologize, try again, learn how to quit, and learn what it means to lead. It is a place where ordinary students are entrusted for a short time with the extraordinary responsibility of serving their peers. That responsibility is temporary. That title is temporary. Our nice office is temporary. So tonight, as we celebrate another year of the Whitewater Student Government, I want to thank everyone who gave their time, energy, and heart to this organization. Thank you to our senators, e-board, and all student advocates who showed up even when it was difficult. Thank you to the faculty, staff, advisors, administrators, friends, family, supporters who have encouraged us, challenged us, corrected us, and stood beside us. Thank you to the people who taught me hard lessons. Thank you to the people who gave me grace when I needed it. Thank you to the people who reminded me who I was when the work made me forget. And thank you to the students of the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater for trusting us, even temporarily, with the responsibility of representing you. I thank you all for attending this evening. The gala has ended, and I wish you safe travels home. Please make people your mission. God bless.
So weary all of the time. When he went away, the blues walked in and met me. Oh yeah, if he stays away, oh rocking chair is gonna get me. All I do is pray the Lord will let me walk in the sun once more. Oh, I can't go on, can't go on, can't go on. Everything I have is gone. Stormy weather, since my man and me and my daddy ain't together. Keeps raining